Good evening, and welcome back to another election night in America, 2024, between Vice President Kamala Harris and former Vice President Mike Pence. The Democratic Party has put forth former Vice President Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket and Roy Cooper for Vice President. The Republican Party has put forth former Vice President Mike Pence for President and UN Ambassador Nikki Haley for Vice President. We just got our first exit polls. We will start by discussing the approval rating of Kamala Harris. 24% of Americans say they strongly approve of the Vice President. 22% say they somewhat approve. 7% say that they have a neutral point of view of the current Vice President. 18% somewhat disapprove, and 29% strongly disapprove. On the other hand, Mike Pence has an 18% strongly approval rate, a 28% somewhat approval rate, a 5% neutral rate, or 5% of Americans view him in a neutral way, 35% of Americans somewhat disapprove of him, and 14% strongly disapprove. We now have our latest swing state polls, as averaged out by 538. In Arizona, Kamala Harris is ahead by 4%. In Florida, she is ahead by 1. In Georgia, she is ahead by 2. In Iowa, Pence is ahead by 2. In Michigan, Harris is ahead by 3. In Minnesota, Harris is ahead by 6. In Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District, she is ahead by 9. In Nevada, she is ahead by 5. In New Hampshire, she is ahead by 10. And in North Carolina, she is ahead by 1. In Ohio, former Vice President Pence is ahead by 4. In Pennsylvania, Harris up by 2. In South Carolina, Pence only up by 5. In Texas, Pence is ahead by a measly 1%. And in the state of Wisconsin, Kamala Harris holds a 6-point lead. The first poll closings of the night have arrived, and CNN can now project. And we have major projections upcoming. CNN can now project that Kamala Harris has won the state of Vermont in their 3 electoral votes based on exit poll data. We can also project that Mike Pence has won the state of Indiana. He was governor of the state 8 years ago, when he was first elected to be Donald Trump's running mate in the 2016 presidential election. CNN can also report that Kentucky will go for Mike Pence. That's 8 electoral votes. In the state of Georgia, it's very early on. Only 8% of the vote has been counted, but Kamala Harris is losing early on. In South Carolina, Kamala Harris currently does enjoy a very early lead, but again, still a ton of votes outstanding, and Pence is expected to take a lead later on in the evening. In Virginia, CNN can report that Mike Pence has a lead, but it'll be hard for him to hold on to this, as most of Northern Virginia hasn't come in yet. 13 electoral votes are at stake here. Here's our electoral map. 19 electoral votes for Mike Pence, 3 for Kamala Harris, with 3 states that have closed their polls too close to call. It is now 7:30 on the East Coast, and we can, and CNN can now make some major projections. First, we can now project that Kamala Harris will carry the state of Virginia in its 13 electoral votes. This was too close to call half an hour ago, but has since been declared for the Vice President. In West Virginia, this is going to be solid Pence territory, getting over 70% of the vote. This state is losing population, and they only have 4 electoral votes. In the previous election, 2020, they had 5. In Ohio, Kamala Harris is currently ahead, but it's very, very early on, and Democrats do tend to do better early on in Ohio. In North Carolina, another early Harris lead. She is up by nearly 3% with 7% of the vote counted. We are going to check back on the Electoral College. 16 electoral votes have currently been declared for Vice President Harris, 23 for Mike Pence. There are 4 states that are too close to call. It is now 8 p.m. on the East Coast, and CNN is prepared to make major projections. First, we can project that Kamala Harris has won the state of Connecticut. We can also project that she has won Delaware in its 3 electoral votes. 19 electoral votes drop in Illinois, and they go for Kamala Harris. We can also project that the Maine at-large vote will go for the Vice President Harris. In Maine's 1st Congressional District, the Vice President will carry 1 electoral vote there. The 2nd District has not yet to report who will win there, or CNN cannot project it yet. In the state of Maryland, That's 10 electoral votes for Kamala Harris. She will win there easily. In Massachusetts, 11 from this state. It's solid Harris territory. And in New Jersey, Kamala Harris will win fairly easily there. And in Rhode Island, 3 electoral votes. They dropped 1 due to losing population. Harris is the projected winner. Now, we can project. CNN can now call an hour after the polls have closed. South Carolina for Mike Pence. This is where Nikki Haley is from. I was surprised it was this close, seeing as Haley was the former governor of South Carolina. But either way, Pence is going to hold on and win South Carolina. In Alabama, Mike Pence is the projected winner. That's 8 electoral votes to his column. 6 electoral votes from Mississippi, the very red state. Although some thought that Harris could make it a less than 10-point win due to having higher black turnout. Right now, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. In Missouri, a solid red state. This is a bellwether 20 years ago, but since then it's been a solid red state, and it goes for Pence. In Oklahoma, that's 7 electoral votes. It'll be interesting to see whether Kamala Harris can even win a county in this ruby red state. In Tennessee, 11 electoral votes. Another former bellwether 20 years ago, but since then it has really trended red. Now in Florida, we can report, look at how close it is. Early on, typical Florida. A 1-point lead for Kamala Harris. This state is growing rapidly. It added 2 electoral votes this year. And in Maine's 2nd congressional district, this is only 1 electoral vote, but has been very swingy in the past few elections. Kamala Harris currently up, but it's early on. In the state of New Hampshire, Kamala Harris has a very early lead. The mail-in data did look good for her, but remember, since the Biden administration did, with the help of a vaccine, of course, quell the spread of the coronavirus. Obviously less mail-in voting, but still very interesting to see how that pans out this year. In Pennsylvania, CNN can report that Kamala Harris has an early lead, but that might not stand, being how contested the state is. Both candidates did go to Pennsylvania in the last week, and speaking of which, Mike Pence did actually spend his last rally was in South Carolina with Nikki Haley. And on that same day, earlier in that day, he had traveled to North Carolina. Kamala Harris spent the day in Florida. It's now 8:30 p.m. on the East Coast, and Arkansas has just closed its polls, but we do have some major projections upcoming. First, in the bellwether state of Ohio, Mike Pence is the projected winner. That's 17 electoral votes. That's great news for the former vice president. They have to be very happy about that. An hour after the polls closed, 60% of the vote is in. Pence has taken the lead, and it looks like he's only going to expand that lead. There was an outside chance of Harris winning, but this state has trended red in recent years, and as expected, it'll be hard for Harris to win the state. She's going to lose in the state of Ohio. 17 electoral votes. They dropped 1 from the census the previous year. Whoops. Now in Arkansas, we can project that 6 electoral votes for the former vice president. So we have an electoral college update. 89 electoral votes for Kamala Harris, 97 for Mike Pence. It's very early on still, and we still are awaiting calls from a bunch of battleground states. But look at how close it is, and this is shaping up to be a very close election. It is now 9 p.m. on the East Coast, and the polls have closed in a plethora of states, including swing states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Texas. There are over 150 electoral votes at stake. CNN has some major projections upcoming, so stay tuned. Now, in the state of Colorado, this was a former swing state. It has since solidified its reputation as a blue state. That's 10 electoral votes. Kamala Harris, she will add them in her corner. In the state of New Mexico, there was some hope for making this a less than 10-point margin for the vice president from the Pence campaign, but it does not look like it's going to be very contested this time around, unfortunately for them. So New Mexico, 5 electoral votes into Kamala Harris's corner. Now, in New York, this is a state that is not growing, really. It's actually doing the opposite. It's a losing population. And 4 years ago, in 2020, New York had 29 electoral votes. Since then, it has gone down to 27. So, Kamala Harris does win their 27 electoral votes. Now, in Kansas, that's 6 electoral votes for Mike Pence. He will win there easily. Now, moving down to Louisiana, 8 electoral votes there. CNN can also report that 2 of Nebraska's electoral votes will go to Mike Pence. And another one from the 1st district, that's a 1 electoral vote. Nebraska, along with Maine, is the only state to divide up its electoral votes based on congressional districts. But 1 electoral vote from Nebraska's 2nd, or from Nebraska's 1st district will go to Mike Pence. And from the 3rd district, we can also project Mike Pence does win there. Now moving on to North Dakota. North Dakota goes red, as does South Dakota. And moving on to Wyoming rather quickly, 3 electoral votes for Mike Pence. In Arizona, 12 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has a very, very early lead, but remember the Democrats do like to take early leads in Arizona. And generally we see how much ground, or the Pence people are waiting to see how much ground they can make up. Now about a third of the vote is in, so yeah. Now 15 electoral votes from Michigan, the home of the auto industry. It's an early lead for Kamala Harris, but Mike Pence said he really thought he was going to win the state. It's been very competitive. Both candidates have visited the state in these closing days of the campaign, so it'll be very interesting to see who wins this state tonight. In Minnesota, 9 electoral votes. This is another Rust Belt state that dropped an electoral vote this year. Kamala Harris has an early lead. In Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, half the vote is in. Harris has a very big lead, but there are still some votes that are yet to be counted. But right now, it does look as though Harris is on track to win this one electoral vote, stealing this from Pence. In Texas, there's been a lot of talk about the Democrats finally being able to flip Texas. This is their year. Right now, Kamala Harris has a lead. It's very early on, though, and we're going to have to see if she can hold on to that very, very narrow lead. Now, we do want to show you the electoral map. Take a look at that. It's very close. And as you can see, a lot of the battlegrounds are still yet to be called. In fact, there's only been 2 battleground states that we identified earlier in the evening that we said that have been called. It's Ohio and South Carolina, although neither of these states have really been considered toss-ups. Both are leaning Pence. So right now, Pence's people have to be very happy about where they are. They have key leads in a lot of states, but this is by no means over, and Kamala Harris is far from a concession speech, very, very far. Now at 10 p.m. on the East Coast, Kamala Harris currently ahead by 7 electoral votes, as we mentioned, but we do have a few projections to make. In the state of New Hampshire, 4 electoral votes. This is good news for the Harris campaign. Pence wanted to pick off these 4. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris's running mate in 2020. He won the state fairly comfortably. Harris is going to win it by a little less, but Pence really thought he had a chance there. That's going to hurt. So we'll show you the final margins. With 80% of the vote in, just a few thousand votes, or tens of thousands of votes outstanding, Harris has an insurmountable lead. So that's why CNN is going to call it for her. Now in Florida, though, this is very good news for the former vice president. 31 electoral votes for Mike Pence. He will win here. This is very, very good news. As I've said multiple times, this is a battleground state. Both Kamala Harris actually spent today, earlier this evening, or rather in the morning of Election Day. She was in Florida campaigning in Miami-Dade County, trying to run up the score there. But right now, we're going to show you how close it is. Mike Pence has taken a 0.2% lead with 75% of the vote in, and the remaining votes are from the Panhandle, and they're going to favor him. So he's on track to win the state by around 2%. That's very disappointing. The Harris campaign really said they really thought they were going to win here because Joe Biden had a bad performance in 2020. They thought that they could get the Latino vote out for them much better than Biden was able to do in 2020. They were able to do that to a certain extent, but it just wasn't enough. And Mike Pence has won the state of Florida. Major call. Now, in Montana, 4 electoral votes. This is one of the few states that actually added an electoral vote in the 2020 census. So Pence will win Montana. And in Utah, 6 electoral votes. They drop and go into Pence's column. Now, from the state of Iowa, we can report Kamala Harris has a very early lead, but that might not stand. Now, in Nevada, it's early. Kamala Harris has the lead. 6 electoral votes at stake in that state. So, Mike Pence, he has the one toss-up state win. Florida has been considered a toss-up by most, or even leaning towards Pence. But he wins Florida. That's huge news for him. And right now, there a lot of nervous energy in both campaign headquarters. But right now, Mike Pence's people have to be very happy about where they are, and they have. And CNN can report that they have now taken the lead in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Texas. So it would be huge if they could pick off. Or if they could pick off Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and hold on to Texas. And they right now think that they are on track to win this election. Now, it's 11 p.m. on the East Coast, and we have poll closings on the West Coast. So we're going to begin, and we have a major projection. The CNN decision desk is telling me. In Minnesota, 9 electoral votes, they go to Kamala Harris. She's going to win here with 87% of the vote, and she's going to significantly do worse than Joe Biden did 4 years ago in this state, but still going to be enough to win their 9 electoral votes. We can also report that Nebraska's 2nd district, this is 1 electoral vote, will go for the vice president. 95% of the vote has been counted here, and her lead does not look like it's going to be any smaller than this. So Kamala Harris, 1 electoral vote, pencil that down. Now we're going to give you an electoral update, just so you can add in Minnesota and Nebraska's 2nd district for Harris. And we're now going to project that California will go to Vice President Harris, as will Hawaii. And in Oregon, this is another state that added an electoral vote, 8 electoral votes. Kamala Harris wins there. 12 electoral votes from the state of Washington. Kamala Harris has won here fairly easily. Now in Iowa, we can project that Mike Pence will win the Hawkeye State 6 electoral votes. There was some hope for Harris winning it, but it's been leaning towards Pence for a while, and he will win it fairly easily. Now in Idaho, 4 electoral votes. Mike Pence is the projected winner there, winning very easily in the state famous for producing potatoes. So 175 electoral votes for Mike Pence, 224 for Kamala Harris. There has been a kind of a momentum shift, but the Pence campaign has to believe that they're still on track to win the election. They do have leads in about half of the yellow states remaining, but in Alaska, of course, which is yet to close their polls, will certainly favor him. But yeah. Now we do have some major projections upcoming. It's 11:52 on the East Coast, and this is a huge one. In Nevada, 6 electoral votes will go to Kamala Harris. This is very good news for her. Mike Pence actually he campaigned here in the final stretch of the election, and there's a lot of hope for him here. But unfortunately for him, he's going to lose the state by around 6%. Now in Arizona, this is even bigger news for Kamala Harris. 12 electoral votes. Arizona has stayed blue. There was a lot of hope for Mike Pence here. He really thought that, that without Donald Trump's damaging John McCain comments, he could flip it back, seeing as how close it was 4 years ago. That did not come into fruition, and it looks like Kamala Harris is actually going to outperform Joe Biden here. So Kamala Harris, she is 28 electoral votes away from the presidency. She just needs 2 of the yellow states. The states that are yellow underscreen are currently too close to call. She'll needs 2 to win the election. Mike Pence will have to win all but 1, and Alaska. So, serious momentum shift, but this is not over by any means. We have some major projections upcoming, and here we go. Maine 2nd Congressional District, that's 1 electoral vote. That's very good news for Mike Pence. With nearly all of the vote in, he is up by 4%. He'll win there. We can also now project that he has won the state of Wisconsin. This is a flip from 2020. Mike Pence, he campaigned here. He said he was going to win the state, and right now he is ahead, and it looks like that lead is insurmountable. Kamala Harris just did not have the appeal to these middle-class workers the way Pence did, and Wisconsin will go to Mike Pence. So, the electoral update with Pence has flipped 1 state, that's Wisconsin, so very good news for him. 175 electoral votes for Mike Pence, and 242 still for Kamala Harris. Whoops, I don't know what happened there. We apologize for the error on your screen. Now we have some major projections upcoming. Please stand by. In Georgia, 16 electoral votes. This is huge news for Kamala Harris. She has just won the state of Georgia, holding on to Joe Biden's incredibly narrow victory in 2018 there. So, Georgia, Kamala Harris. With nearly all the vote counted, she's ahead by 1%. Georgia will stay with the former vice president, or with the Democrats, as Vice President Harris does win. Now in Pennsylvania, though, this is huge news. Mike Pence needed Pennsylvania, otherwise it would have been over. And he's going to hold, and he's going to flip Pennsylvania. He's had the lead there for about half an hour. And right now, look at how close that is. It's a 0.7% lead there with nearly all the vote counted. Mike Pence will win Pennsylvania. That is great news for the former vice president, and it keeps his hopes of being president alive. Now in Michigan, we are going to show you the tally. Look at how close this is, and we actually did receive a call from the Harris campaign asking why we haven't called it for them yet, seeing as she's up by 1.2%. And calling Michigan would give her the election. Now, the reasoning behind this is because 14% of the vote, and I'm being told this by the CNN decision desk, 14% of the vote does remain outstanding. So, there is some hope for Pence, although certainly Harris is favored in the betting market right now. And Pence will have to do some serious catch-up in the rural areas and then contest the results because it does not look like he can win outright, but we're going to have to see where it stands, and expect a call from Michigan very, very soon. And here we go. We have a major projection. CNN is now going to project that Mike Pence has won the state of Texas. 41 electoral votes. It's getting very interesting. Kamala Harris, she said she was going to flip Texas. That did not come true. It's very close, of course. There are still some votes that remain to be counted, but Texas has stayed red. This is great news for Mike Pence, and they are still alive. They're going to live to fight another day. But look at how close the Electoral College is. Just giving you a moment to take that in while I sip my water. But 249 electoral votes for Mike Pence, 258 for Kamala Harris. That is huge news. So there are only 2 states that remain yet to be called. We did call Mike Pence we did call Alaska for Mike Pence earlier, but yeah. But if Kamala Harris needs one of these states, Mike Pence needs both of these states. So yeah, and here we go. This is CNN can now make a momentous projection that will go down in the history of the United States. America has elected its first female president. Vice President Kamala Harris has won North Carolina, and with this projection, we can project that she has been elected the 47th president of the United States of America. This is huge for her. They are very, very happy in San Francisco, in Oakland, in the Bay Area. Numerous watch parties being set up. Times Square is also being allowed to use CNN's coverage of election night in America. They are very happy. A gathering of Harris supporters is happening right now in New York in Times Square. North Carolina has been very close for a while. It's now 3 o'clock on the East Coast, midnight on the West Coast, but we can now project 16 electoral votes for North Carolina. Mike Pence could not hold on to this state. Donald Trump won it in 2016, so he was able to hold Florida, but he could not hold North Carolina. So Michigan, they have yet to announce their results, or we've yet to call it, rather, but that does not matter. Pence can still win Michigan and lose the election, but Kamala Harris has been elected the 47th President of the United States. We now have some major projections upcoming. It's from the state of Michigan, and does not matter, but a day after the election, it is currently 11 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast. So some of you on the West Coast may be just waking up. But Michigan, 15 electoral votes. We can finally project Kamala Harris wins. It was very, very close, much more narrow than we expected, and we were about to call it for Harris until we saw some more votes coming in from the Upper Peninsula, and there was much higher rural turnout than we expected. So this was able to help Pence fight another day in Michigan, but unfortunately for him, he's going to lose the state of Michigan. So he's behind by 0.2. Look at that. What a close election. So that's the final electoral map. Thank you all so much for watching the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you are not already. I hope you enjoyed. I worked really hard on this, so even if you disagree with the outcome, please do like the video. It helps me out a tremendous amount. Let's get into 3,000 subscribers. Thank you, and have a great day.